Hi, welcome to Myers ASMR. How are you? I hope you are well. Are you relaxed? Relax. Shake that mess off, shake that stress off. It was not personal. Hey, there's nothing outside the limits of your creating. There's nothing outside the limits of your creating. Well, look what I got here today. This is called shrimp inari kabuki. And I picked it up from Whole Foods after work, so let's just dig in. I've never had this particular dish before. It looks so good. Somebody advised me not to put the food so close because it looks overexposed. Well, let me just dig in. When it comes to sushi, it's definitely all about the sauce. It's those sauces, man. All the condiments. The pickled ginger, the wasabi. So good. Ooh, scallions. I tell you, the details are in the flavor. Ooh, I love the pickled ginger. I love sprinkling it on top. It just takes it up a notch. Yes, indeed it does. Wasabi does the same thing. Pickled ginger is divine. If you don't know, now you know. Put some wasabi. Anything, go to town with it. You know, it took me decades to finally try some sushi, actually. It's this channel that's got me experimenting. Oops. And trying so many things. I mean, I've always been a bit of a foodie, but this channel really forces me to be, because I have to This was about $11. So I thought that was reasonable. Trying to keep it neat. Spilled some soy sauce on my microphone. Wasabi in my nose. It's so good. All these flavors. It's a little messy. You gotta be okay with that. This is the last one. So good. It's so good it makes me chuckle. wasabi. I gotta learn. I could eat that paste every day. It's in my nose. So freaking good. I like to clean up. Clean up early, don't leave a mess. So glad my napkin lasted. Lord have mercy. That was enough. And that hit the spot. I mean, I could have kept eating, but I think for something like this, 4 pieces was enough. Oh man, Lord have mercy. You know, good sushi is an art. Just take a sip of my tea, then I poured some vinegar in. Also put a dried hibiscus leaf in it. It doesn't even need sweetener. Well, you know what time it is. It's time for the next fun part, where we get to focus on getting better and better every day in every way with the help of this How to Develop a Winning Personality book. Let's see what this sassy man has to say today. Let's see. So this chapter is called Developing Your Personality. And this section is called A Million Ways to Meet New People. Now keep in mind this book was written a few decades ago, but I'm reading it because the tips are really timeless. Why, except by some accident of fate, or by some stroke of luck, should any of the other members of the club change the established pattern of their lives and friendship by opening the gates to Mary? Why should they especially notice Mary at all? Mary isn't brilliant. She isn't ravishingly beautiful. She has no great talents. She is just another nice girl in a world full of nice girls. But now let us see what happens when Mary discovers our formula, even when she uses it in such an outworn approach as joining a social club. One evening, Mary attends the regular monthly business meeting of the club. It starts out like any other evening and like any other meeting. The minutes are read, reports on ticket sales for the forthcoming dance are rendered by the committee. A slate of officers for the next election is presented to the members. The treasurer reads the financial report. Then the club chairman opens the meeting to statements on good and welfare. Grace rises to say that she thinks it would be a good idea for the club to have a picnic next summer. Henry says that some of the boys ought to get together to repaint the club room. Then Mary asks for the floor and is recognized by the chairman. Mary, her heart in her mouth, rises and says, I know that lots of our members have cameras, and I know how much it costs to have enlargements made of some of your favorite pictures. My father has a dark room in our house, and he's taught me to make enlargements. If any of the members want to use our dark room, I'll be glad to show them how it's done, and they can make their own enlargements without any expense except the cost of the paper. Now, this was no general statement about a general matter that affected everyone in the club in a general way. It was a statement that put Mary right in the middle of it. It made Mary the center of the operation. No one could participate in the operation without thinking first of all about Mary's. As the individual upon whom the operation rested. There was no flurry of excitement. When Mary had said her nervous little piece, the meeting proceeded along the even tenor of its way until the moment of adjournment. After the meeting, however, 2 of the boys and 1 of the girls came over to Mary to discuss her proposal with her. The 4 of them arranged for a meeting at Mary's home at which she would show them how to make enlargements from their negatives. What was the result? For a few weeks, the quartet worked with feverish enthusiasm at the new hobby. Gradually, however, their ardor for enlargements began to cool, and the darkroom sessions became a rarity. But in the meantime, the girl and 1 of the boys found in Mary, through frequent association, a kindred soul. She was no more kindred now than she had been before she launched her enlargement program, but because she had been so positively the center of the project, the others inevitably had to give her special thought and attention, partly from a feeling of gratitude for her help, partly because they were, in a sense, her pupils. As their teacher, she was in what might be called an exalted position vis-a-vis the others, and so they discovered what they might never have discovered had she not made herself the center of an operation. They discovered that Mary was the kind of girl they liked. Thus, Mary made 2 good friends. There's an interesting thing about our formula. While at times it may call for certain special knowledge or abilities that may easily be acquired, it does not call for any great charm or talent or extroversion, though it may serve to help develop all 3 in those who make use of it. In addition, as we shall see, the formula can serve to make not only friends but money as well. I know an elderly woman who lives alone in an old house in which her family, of which she is the only survivor, had lived 4 generations. She is a shy person, sweet and lovable, but almost tongue-tied in the presence of strangers. For several years after the death of her husband, there were no visitors at her home other than the mailman, the laundry boy, and such of her other servicemen as she needed for the running of her household. She was, as I learned later, terribly lonely during these years. The neighbors were sorry for her, but since she invited no association, they granted her the privacy they thought she wanted. I myself used to pass by her home every day. Sometimes she would be seated by the window, and we would nod to each other. One day as I passed, I saw her slumped over the sill as though asleep. When I had proceeded about half a block, I was filled with a sudden uneasiness. People didn't look just like that when they were asleep. I hurried back and found her still motionless in the same position. I called to her, but she did not answer or move. I rushed to the door, which fortunately was unlocked, and entered the house. When I got to her, I found that she was not dead as I had feared, but burning with fever. I got her onto the sofa and telephoned the doctor. While I waited his arrival, I looked about the room. It was crammed full of furniture, lamps, vases, clocks, and doodads, some of which appeared even to my unpracticed eye to be valuable antiques. I recalled that I wondered why this old lady held on to such a jumble of stuff, so little of which could be of use to her. The doctor arrived and diagnosed her illness as influenza. He was kind enough to say to her that I might have saved her life by calling him when I did. When I left, one of the neighbors, whose curiosity had been aroused by the arrival of the doctor, asked me what was wrong. When I told her, she said that she would get a group of the women in the neighborhood together to take turns in caring for their sick neighbor. Though it is not the point of the story, it is interesting to note that in an unhappy sort of way, the old lady was now the center of the operation, the focus of attention, and as such, she was about to be given the opportunity of making a number of friends in the neighborhood. When she recovered, the old lady invited me in one day as I was passing by. She wanted to thank me for what I had done. We got to talking, and she told me in response to a question that since she did not have much money, she had tried to sell some of her treasures to a second-hand furniture dealer. However, he had offered her such a pittance that she had decided not to sell anything. I induced her to invest a few of her dollars in an advertisement in a neighborhood newspaper. In this ad, she was to mention only one of the items she possessed, and she was to speak of it as a prized possession with which she was reluctant to part, which was true. A high price was to be placed on the object, but the price was not to be greater than its real worth. Anyone who knew about such things and had the money and the desire to own one would prove a live prospect. I had no thought at the time of helping her to solve her loneliness problem. The idea then was to get her some money for her needs. Well, we both got the money. And, we got both the money and the loneliness cure. There were 3 applicants for the item which had been offered. One was a woman who made a specialty of finding such things and reselling them. One was a man who lived, breathed, and dreamed antiques. And the third was a newlywed bride who was setting up her home and who had been attracted by the advertised description. My friend sold it to the bride for reasons which you can understand, but all 3 were charmed by her and her home, and all 3 became friends and frequent visitors. The woman with the business angle saw in the old woman's home a treasure trove of business possibilities. More intriguing to her than the items themselves was the setting in this private old home. She worked out an arrangement whereby many of the items would be sold and replaced with others. In short, she went into business with my friend using her home as the bait, a quite legitimate bait. The man who loved antiques bought 2 other items and got to like the old lady so well that he began to make it a practice to drop in for tea even when he was not particularly concerned with antiques. The bride too began to make periodic visits. Beyond these, there were new customers each week, all of them conscious of the fact that they were visiting a private home. This made them more conscious of the old lady as an individual than they might have been had they been shopping in a store. Many of them were quite willing to become friendly, and after a while the old woman's problem changed from loneliness to the need for finding time for privacy and communion. A much more pleasant problem indeed. Now, need I add that there was quite an improvement in the money situation as well. I have told this story at length because it illustrates so well the value of our formula, the importance of being the center of the operation, the possibility of utilizing things already a part of our lives in the effort to get beyond the present boundaries of our lives, even though we may not be rich or beautiful or talented or aggressive or extrovert or articulate. It illustrates one thing more. And this is the other side of the coin on which our formula is engraved. The utter willingness of people to enter into our lives once their interest in us is aroused. The making of new friends is not a battle. It is a simple technique that anyone can employ. If you understand this, it is fair to say that loneliness resulting from lack of human contacts need never again be your lot. And isn't that a great place to leave off? Don't you just love these self-help nuggets? I know I do. And if you're similar to me, you could probably use some help in the people skills arena. Remember that there's nothing outside the limits of your creation. There's nothing outside the limits of your creating. There's nothing outside the limits of your creating. Hey, if you like what I'm doing here, like and subscribe. Donate to the cause. Catch me in the next video, and may you find lasting happiness.